Hey everyone, this is Todd, the Cybertruck truck guy, and today I'm going to be talking about the one Cybertruck adventure feature that nobody is talking about: sleep. Now, depending on your history with adventure travel and camping in the backwoods, you're either going to A, instantly understand why sleep is extremely important, or B, not have a clue. So my goal in this video is to provide some valuable insights to both kinds of people that are going to be using the Cybertruck for an adventure vehicle. First, I'm going to explain why sleep plays such an important but often overlooked part of adventure travel. Then I'm going to outline 3 key features that I think define a great adventure travel sleep system. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to explain why none of the existing adventure sleep system options are very good at meeting all 3 requirements. And then lastly, I'm going to explain why the Cybertruck sleep system is going to be the first one that truly fits the needs of adventure travelers. Okay, so like I said, if you're an adventure traveler, you're going to instantly understand the importance of sleep. But for those that are new into the world of adventure travel, I need to set the stage a little bit around why sleep is so important and such a big deal in adventure travel. First thing you have to realize is that most of the places we like to go for adventure travel have some things in common. Number 1, they're far away from where we actually live. Number 2, they tend to have more dynamic weather and climate conditions than most of us live in. And lastly, they tend to have a much worse lodging infrastructure than where we live or where we normally travel. I'm going to start with some of the adventure trips that I've taken in the last year. For me, living in Kansas City, the best off-roading adventure areas around here are either in the northern Arkansas Ozarks or in the Colorado Rockies. The Ozarks take me about 5 hours to get there, and the Colorado Rockies takes anywhere from 12 to 20 hours, depending on which part of Colorado I'm headed to and depending on how I drive. Let's first talk about the Ozarks. The Ozarks are an awesome place to go adventure and off-road traveling. They have a couple of features that make it kind of difficult when it comes to sleeping. The first is that it's very wet and very humid. If you haven't ever had to tent camp in a high humidity, high heat environment, the only thing I can say is it only takes once for you to decide you never want to do that again. Second problem is that down in the part we like to off-road, there's like no hotels. If you want a hotel, you typically have to drive an hour away and then drive in to do off-roading and then drive an hour back. There's not a lot of options. The other challenge is if you've ever had to tent camp for 2 or 3 days in a row where it's basically rained nonstop, it makes, no matter how much fun you have during the day, which it can be fun to off-road in rain and mud, but it makes it miserable because everything is wet. It's like a damp towel. Your sleeping bag, your pillow, all your clothes, everything you touch is just yuck. It totally takes the fun out of adventure travel. Now, on the other hand, if we're talking about Colorado, it's a different set of challenges. First thing is, I got to get there. And unless I get up real early in the morning and I drive really hard, I usually end up having to stop in order to get some sleep. And that usually means I either have to camp or I have to get a hotel. Hotels are expensive, and camping, when I have to set up my camp and break it down, is really time consuming. But the last time I went, I had to skip it because it was still 90 degrees when I got to my campsite. So the process of just driving to and from your adventure destination, the issue of sleep comes into play. The other thing is that while camping in Colorado in the summer in a tent is actually not too bad, they still get thunderstorms and it gets real cold at night. That usually means you have to layer up or layer down sometime in the middle of the night, and that really interrupts your sleep. The last thing is there's still bears and mountain lions out in the Rockies. Yes, in the United States, in the Rocky Mountains, we have predators that are still wild. And while actually getting attacked by one is pretty rare, it does happen. The thing that's not rare is to hear weird things while you're trying to go to sleep. and your imagination just goes to the dark corners, and it makes falling asleep harder to do because you're wondering, yeah, I know it's a 1 in 100,000 chance that I have a bear encounter or meet a mountain lion, but is this that time? You're not exactly rational when you're trying to fall asleep. In both these kinds of areas, the lodging options are either non-existent, or they're too expensive, or they're unreliable, or they're extremely Spartan. You see, the problem is the very things that attract us to going traveling in the backcountry, being exposed to cool terrain and weather extremes and all parts of nature and even animals, predators, is they're the same thing that actually kind of make it hard to go to sleep. The things that we want to escape from home make it really cool, but we still do miss some of the comforts of home. Now, unlike skipping a shower for a few days or having to wear some dirty clothes, sleep deprivation can actually be used as a form of torture. When you can't sleep, it ruins your adventure travel. When you can't get a full restful night's sleep, it makes you irritable. It makes you less enjoyable of the things you went there to enjoy. And then if you're sleep deprived on a long trip home, you're fighting falling asleep at the wheel, and that could result in devastating consequences, not to mention being exhausted when you show up for work the next day. Number of times that I've either shortened a trip or canceled a trip because I wasn't confident that I was going to be able to get a good night's sleep is a long list. The number of times I've had to pay to stay in a hotel or a lodge or an Airbnb because I needed to do that to get a good night's sleep while I was adventuring is an expensive list. Poor sleeping conditions are one of the most consistently irritating parts of my adventure experiences. So I've come to realize that there's really 3 elements that you need to have in order to have a great backcountry sleeping system. First one is obviously comfort. The most important thing when you go is that you can actually sleep. And the most important aspect of actually being able to sleep is the comfort of experience. Ideally, you want a sleep system that will keep you comfortable in a very wide variety of climates and weather conditions. You really want a sleep system that most closely matches what you're used to at home. That's what helps you fall asleep and stay asleep. The second most important feature of a good adventure sleep system is convenience. You need the least amount of energy to set it up and to break it down. You don't want the sleep system to require a lot of extra energy to mount it or unmount it or find a place to store it or manage it while you're traveling. You want something that is close to getting in your vehicle and going, and then stopping, going to bed, getting up, getting back in your vehicle and going again. That is the ultimate for an adventure sleep system. The third thing is cost. Now, any kind of adventure travel that you do is gonna require some extra money, but you want to have an adventure sleep system that reduces your cost as much as possible, because every time you have to increase cost, it tends to do 2 things. It tends to make you put off that thing and keep you from going on the adventure you want to go on. And it usually ends up meaning that your adventure, the number of times you go out is fewer and the time that you're out is shorter. Now, I'm not the first person to figure out that sleep is such a big deal. And literally for decades, different companies and people have been trying to crack the code of building and providing the best adventure sleep system possible. In fact, in the last 10 years, with the popularity of overlanding, that has really gone up a notch. So what I want to talk about, really there's 4 options for sleep systems for adventure travel. I'm really only going to focus on 3. I'll make that clear in a second. So the first one is sleeping in a tent. The second one is sleeping in the back of a truck with a truck cap on the bed, or sleeping in a rooftop tent. And the third option is sleeping in one of the newer adventure campers, either the kind that go in the back of a truck or the teardrop kind that you can actually tow. So what I did is I assigned a 5-point rating system to each of those 3 categories. So the better a system gets, the closer it gets to 15 points. the worse the system gets, the closer it gets to like 3 points, which would be the minimum. So we're going to start with tents. Most of us, that's how we started our adventure sleeping experience. And I'm going to include hammock tents in there as well because they kind of have similar pros and cons. So in the area of comfort, I give tents a 1 out of 5. Now, to be fair, in a good environment where you have good ground and not a lot of weather considerations, sleeping in a tent can be a 3 or a 4 in terms of comfort. The problem is it's very unpredictable. And if you happen to be too cold or too wet or too humid or too a bunch of things, the comfort goes down to like a 0. So that's the reason why I give it a 1. Now, out of inconvenience, I give it a 3 out of 5. Tents are pretty convenient as long as you just need to set them up once and can camp out of them during the duration. But if you're in a situation where you have to set up and break down camp every day, tents are really inconvenient. It takes a while to set them up. I mean, it might only take 10 or 15 minutes to get the tent set up, but then you have to reset up all the stuff that goes in the tent. Then you got to reverse it on the other side. It can be super inconvenient when you're overlanding. So from a cost standpoint, I give it a 4 out of 5. 5 is basically free. So tents are almost free, and that's assuming if you're going to be overlanding or adventure traveling, you're not going to get a Kmart special. You're going to invest in a decent tent, a decent sleeping pad, and a decent sleeping bag. And that's going to set you back anywhere from $400 to $700. So that really gives us a total score of 8 out of 15. Now we're going to talk about a bed topper or a rooftop tent. So I give it a comfort level of 2 out of 5. Now again, I know there's people out there that are going to say, it's a 4 out of 5, it's a 5 out of 5. Yes, if you always can camp somewhere where it's dry and where it's not humid. I know a lot of people that they only camp in the mountains. And so they don't understand what it's like to camp in these hot, humid, wet environments. And a rooftop tent or a topper for a pickup truck bed doesn't do anything about the climate. It just gets you up off the ground and usually gives you a better mattress quality. On the other hand, in terms of convenience, I'd give those a 4. Really, they're pretty easy to stop. Now, except you do have to level the truck out before you open the tent or get in the back of the bed of your truck bed if you're on any kind of uneven terrain, because sleeping on an incline sucks. But really outside of that, on the trail, they're both really convenient. The only inconvenience for the rooftop tent comes if you have to take it off at home and find a place to store it. Or with the truck topper, in my case, I can't use a topper on my trucks because I haul my motorcycles around with them. So you can't have a truck topper and still haul around big things unless you take the topper on and off. In terms of the cost, I put them at a 3 out of 5. You can get an inexpensive or kind of an entry-level rooftop tent or truck topper for kind of in the $1,000 to $1,500 range, but they go up from there. They can get up in a $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. The other thing is you might have to get a rack system for the rooftop tents, and that could be an additional cost. Now, the third area has been the recent introduction of what I want to call adventure campers. Same thing. It's either something you tow or it's something you put in the bed of your truck. There's a wide range of variety in terms of costs and options, so I'm going to try and base this on a middle-of-the-road adventure camper. So in terms of comfort, I'm going to give them a 4 out of 5. Basically, in terms of the mattress thickness, getting you up off the ground, giving you a nice place to sleep, and having a level place to sleep, they're really kind of the best option out there. Most of them come with a heater, and most of them offer the option to add an air conditioner. The only reason I didn't make it a 5 is because air conditioners aren't standard. And if you have a standard air conditioner, you also need a generator and fuel to run it. So you're making some additional investments if you want to get that comfort level of 5. And I don't think most people are going to do that. In terms of convenience, I'm going to give it a 2.5. Having a camper trailer, it requires you to have a place to store it. You got to hook it up and take it off when you're leaving. You have to do maintenance on it. Oftentimes there's repairs on it. It's a standalone vehicle. There's licensing, there's insurance, there's all kinds of factors you have to think about on the tow behind units. And then once you get them out in the backcountry, you have to drive while you're towing something. And that is anywhere from irritating to impossible depending on the terrain that you're in. Now the other kind, the bed-based campers, I think those are a better option if you want to do serious overlanding. But the thing is, you have to make sure that it comes down to the roof line when you're off-road, because you don't want to be hitting things, trees that are hanging over. But they still have their own problem with storage. Where are you going to keep that thing when you're not bringing it out camping? If you have it in the bed of your truck, you can't use the bed of your truck. So you got to find a place to keep it. And that adds a level of inconvenience. So I said 2.5. Really, I would say the trailers are like a 3 on or a 2 on convenience, and the campers are like a 3, so I gave it 2.5. Cost, they're 1 out of 5. Basically, the entry-level ones that I've seen are like $15,000, and they go up from there. If you take that and you put it on like a 7-year loan payment, you're talking about $4,000 a year. Now, most people with those, I bet they don't camp in them more than about 20 nights a year. So when you factor that in, the additional cost for maintenance and insurance and upkeep and just the cost of having a standalone camper, you're approaching $5,000 a year, and you split that up over 20 nights, that's $250 a night. That is not cheap. The problem I find with expensive things like that is people know they want something that they will be comfortable off-roading in, but they put off going adventure traveling because they're trying to save up and buy those things. They become an encumbrance for actually going out and doing adventure travel. Okay, like I said, I'm not going to address staying in hotels or Airbnbs. I'll just say this. If you're the kind of person who pretty much everywhere you go, you're going to stay in a hotel or Airbnb, you're probably not going to take my evaluation of the Cybertruck and its advantages for sleeping with a lot of value. So we'll just jump past that. So now I want to take a look at what I'm calling the Cybertruck sleep ecosystem. So in terms of comfort, it's a 5 out of 5. The Cybertruck is the only option I've discussed that's 100% environmental control capable without adding anything to it. And in addition to that, with the in-cab power outlets, you could hook up a heater, an air conditioner, a humidifier, a dehumidifier. You can basically make the climate anything you want. It has lighting on the inside of the bed. It is totally flat except for the recessed grooves where the T-slots are, and there's no irritating wheel wells coming into the bed. The bed lies flat because it has fully adjustable air suspension, and the rugged construction of the truck and the roof means it's basically predator proof. Now, I suppose a grizzly could get in there if they really wanted to, but for all intents and purposes, you're pretty safe. If you want to sleep under the stars, you can, but if a single drop of water falls from the sky, all you have to do is hit a switch and the retractable roof will protect you snug as a bug on the rug. And then you can roll over and go right back asleep. Convenience, again, it's a 5 out of 5. There's nothing to load, unload, or store. There's no special gear that you need. You could put a regular mattress in it. You could put in regular bedding and a regular pillow and just go. A twin-size mattress will fit in it easily. And most likely, there's companies out there that make custom-size air mattresses to fit inside of truck beds. I'm sure Cybertruck will have one of those too. They're not very expensive. On a long trip as a driver, all you need to do is pull over to the side of the road, climb in back, go to sleep, take a nap, get back up, and hit the road again. You can decide you want to go on an adventure at 3 in the afternoon. You could be headed out on your adventure 15 minutes later. There's no need to get a hotel, either on your way to far-off destinations or once you get there. Just drive until you're tired, get a little nap, and finish your way there. And what's more, in maybe just a year or two, all you have to do is tell your truck where you want to go to sleep, and you'll wake up at your destination. What a game changer. When you're out on the trail, all you need to do to camp is find a place to pull over. The truck will level itself out. You climb in back and go to sleep. When you're ready to leave, there's no wet tents to pack up. There's no need to worry about mildewy fabric. You don't have to go through some complicated process of prepping your camp to leave. You just go. And for cost, it's a 5 out of 5. Everything that I've covered here is already covered in the purchase of your truck. It's functionally free. No additional storage fees, no taxes, no additional maintenance, no additional licensing. There's no extra things you need to finance. There's no special gear you need to buy. Like I said, you can use an old mattress and some blankets from your bed closet. Cybertruck Sleep ecosystem means that your adventures will cost less, that you'll be able to go more frequently, that you'll be able to go further, that you'll be able to stay out there longer. It gives you all of this with a better night's sleep than any other system tailored to the adventure community gives you. You'll be able to enjoy the elements without being a victim of them. The Cybertruck is going to democratize adventure travel because it's going to provide all these features to anyone who buys the Cybertruck, including the single motor version. Okay guys, remember, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so if you like the channel, please consider subscribing. I also read all the comments, so if you have anything to say, put them in the comments, and if you ask a question, I always try and respond to them. But like I say, I'm a sucker for a compliment, and there's a lot of times that your kind words and thoughtful comments keep me motivated to keep producing these videos. All right, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.